Thank you for having me here. This is such a beautiful theater. Oh my gosh, it's gorgeous.
Thank you so much for being with us. As I mentioned to the audience before the movie, you are our first guest who is a mall inhabitant.
Oh, good.
As guest.
I promise I won't stay. I'm going to go home tonight after this. Yeah.
I know the audience is going to have some questions about this movie because it's so multifaceted, but I would like to ask you a few foundation questions first. If you could maybe take us through, I know from approximately 2003 to 2007 was when you embarked on this project. When did you first get to Providence and graduate college?
Yeah.
And what were you up to at the point in time when this monstrosity of a structure was being built?
Yeah, so I went to Brown University. Yay, Brown. Maybe other people are here from Brown. So I went to Brown. Actually, I started there in 1998. So while the mall was still being constructed, I was very busy, like studying. So I didn't pay attention to it at all, except when I started volunteering, teaching English as a second language. So Providence, for maybe those who know it, very significant immigrant and refugee community. And so I started teaching English at night in the east part of the city. So the part of the city that was actually blocked off by the mall's construction. So it blocks off downtown and the more affluent west side. Oh, sorry. I'm confusing east and west. West Providence is where there's the post-industrial mill buildings, a lot of immigrants and refugees. East side is the more affluent part. So I was teaching English by night, very curious about what was happening and why this kind of like fortress was emerging that was dividing the city and really causing a lot of pain to downtown businesses. Yeah.
For how long was this mall being built, and were you watching it unfold, contemplating what on earth is going on here, till you then decided to, have this dialogue with your friends and cohorts about this prospective secret mall apartment?
Yeah, so we were actually hanging out together working on another art project. And it's just like it is in the movie, where I was listening to a radio ad about the mall. And for the most part, we kind of like ignored / tried to avoid the mall. We all had like very creative ways of biking through the mall. There's different like outdoor paths because it really bifurcated the city. But then when I heard this invitation, I was like, wait a minute, there's actually like a playful invitation there to explore it and get to know it on this deeper level. And in a way, we allowed ourselves, in a very strange way, to like fall in love with the mall and like try to just accept it on its own terms. And that meant just living in it as if it were the future city, right? Which I think in many ways, and I know Stamford has its own history of malls, where a big shopping mall is built and it comes with all these dreams of solving all of the city's problems and creating jobs and just like creating this very idealistic future that only some of us are invited to be part of, right? So we thought as artists, like, this is actually the most interesting material to work with.
And when you started conceiving of it and thinking about it in that fashion, did you, I don't know, like how far ahead into the future did you think about it, or did you look at it with any sort of context like, and then there might be some sort of public or publicized component to what we might do here?
Yeah, we never went that far. It's like pretty clear in the movie they were very spontaneous people. We had like no long-term plans. We literally like, okay, we're going to live in the mall. We didn't even think about where we were going to sleep. We just knew it was going to be cold. So we had those like emergency blankets and everybody brought a pretty good jacket. So we had no idea that this would be public. It's still very strange that I've been going to all these movie theaters around the Northeast and all these people come to watch the movie. And I was like, oh, you think this is interesting? It's so This is just like a weird part of my life, but welcome.
There was something unconscious about it, you say, but
Yeah.
at the same token, to some degree or another, I sensed a consciousness in that you all captured so much of yourselves
Yeah.
as you were going through this process. Can you speak a little bit to the footage that we saw that was not the recent interview footage, but that of you
Oh, sure.
documenting yourselves
Yeah,
during the
yeah.
time that you were doing this?
Yeah. So I guess when Jeremy Workman, the director of this film, got interested in this story, at some point we handed him 25 hours of footage on a very low resolution camera. So the camera that we were filming with has worse resolution than a VHS tape. Like it's far less powerful than any of the cameras you all have in your pockets. So yeah, we definitely weren't intending this to be public, but at the same time, we thought that everything that we were doing was like so funny and interesting. So we filmed everything.
And was
Yeah.
that one individual member of your group that was predominantly filming everything and then warehoused it and kept it for all of these years?
So we all had the same camera. So there were Optio-Pentax cameras in Altoid cases. That was like our thing before we had a phone. But Mike is like the archivist. So he has like a whole room of hard drives and he saves everything very methodically. So thanks to Mike, there's a movie. Yeah.
I'm just curious, during the time that you were settled in,
Yeah.
how many people would actually stay there and sleep there for the night or nights? To what end was it utilized as an actual place to sleep versus we go and we spend some time here, we might work on our art or talk about life and whatever else?
Yeah, so all of us had homes. Some of our homes were like not as nice as that apartment, actually. Don't tell my mom. My mom almost came to the movie tonight, but she couldn't make it. She lives in Connecticut. She hasn't seen the movie. She doesn't actually know about the apartment. Maybe don't tell her until she sees the movie. But the other, like 2 weekends ago when it opened in Rhode Island, she called me on the phone and she was like, "What are you doing this weekend?" And I was like, "Well, I'm going to the movies to see this movie. I'm kind of in it." Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye. So now I totally forgot. Oh, yes. So we use the mall apartment as kind of like a tree house or a clubhouse. So at any point, really, it was not that comfortable for more than 2 or 3 people to sleep there. So I slept on that bed of insulation tiles. I had a pillow. I remember like one night we swapped, so I wanted to try sleeping in that column in the parking lot. I don't know why. I was just really curious about it. Yeah, but like 2 people could really sleep comfortably on that couch. There was that longer like velvet couch that's like basically a twin bed. We like joke that was like the kids' room. So in and out, like an office or a co-working space. Yeah.
And over that span of 4 years, 2-part question. One,
Okay.
how long were you there? Were you there through the end, or were you there for only a certain amount of time?
Yeah.
And could you speak at all to the ways in which any, like, beyond your own personal one that's mentioned in the film a little bit, like the interdynamics between people, perhaps even framed from the perspective of being one of the only women. Like, what was that experience like? And did the interpersonal dynamics change greatly amongst the group from its inception point to 4 years later?
Yeah. So I felt very personally attached to this project as a woman, as somebody who grew up actually going to the Stanford Mall a lot. Even though we lived in Westchester. So the idea of being this like shopper model, like girl and woman, was a big part of my upbringing. So there was a part of me that really did relate to that woman in the Providence Place Mall ad. And I was very curious, like, yeah, I wanted to try to sleep in all these different places and try on every outfit at Bebe to see what it was like. I'm actually now a design researcher, so that actually is my job, to understand like products and experiences. I accidentally started doing that in the mall. And now I have a job, so that's great. It works out great for everyone.
So is this a resume builder?
Yeah. Exactly. My client, my accidental client. No. So for the first couple years, I was like really into it. And then you remember that scene in the food court where I'm just like, I'm a little tired of this. And now I can't remember how old I am at that point. Maybe I'm like 25, 26. Getting a little older, you know, and I'm getting a little tired of running around and doing all these gig jobs. I was like, you know, I have to find a different way to challenge gentrification. And so I ended up going to grad school, moving to New York, studying urban design. And I was still kind of like in and out of the mall, checking in. I did a bunch of like research projects and mappings of the mall, and then went on to do research on malls in all different cities in the Middle East and Asia. So I had to find my own voice. And I think maybe that's sometimes the tricky part of being a woman, being an artist, not feeling like it's selfish or wrong to break off from the group, to like pursue your own dreams and needs, etc. Yeah.
I think that's a great stepping off point for me to give the audience an opportunity to continue with some questions. So
Yeah, awesome.
I see a hand here. We're going to wait for the mic to come to you, and a next hand over here. Please just wait for the mics to come to you to ask your questions. Thank you.
Hi, thank you very much. Sorry about that.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, there I am. Yeah, I'm some random guy. Thank you for being in this movie, by the way. That was really special. My question to you is, and this is going to sound kind of stupid, how'd y'all go to the bathroom if you were sleeping there overnight? Like, was there a bucket? Was there diapers? Like, well, how did y'all relieve yourselves in that cramped space?
Yeah, it's a really universal question we all can relate to. So we would go to the bathroom. We would all try to go to the bathroom like in the movies, or there was another bathroom on the first floor near the entrance. Like it's 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Like who has to go to the bathroom? You got to go to the bathroom. And then we had a bucket in case of emergencies. So you're right.
Question here, and then we'll move to the back after.
Two things. We've been to all of these spaces many times. The film is brilliant. I mean, as an artistic piece, it's brilliant. The first part is, how could you afford, as students, as young artists, how could you afford to be buying all this stuff? The Salvation Army, I appreciate, but the cinderblock and the time and the energy and all the work. And the part B is, how do you feel about the apartment underneath the stage?
That's a little too small for my needs right now. I want some natural light. That's a good question about how did we get money for all of these things. So we didn't. So you know all the things that like normal people spend money on? Like, oh, I need to like, if you're like at a gym or you buy socks or you go to the pharmacy and I don't know, whatever you buy. We spent no money, okay, on like personal things. I remember there was a time where we had this pact where we would only like walk, bike, or use our skateboards because we didn't want to spend any money on gas, okay? So we had a lot of self-imposed restrictions so that all of our money was going into our art projects. That's kind of exhausting, difficult to keep up. Ironically, I had a day job. One, I ran a school for undocumented immigrant families, so I taught English as a second language at the same time, so I worked in a community organization. I also got a job as a stylist on photo shoots. So I would go to Boston, or sometimes the shoots were in Providence, and they would have all this stuff at the end of photo shoots. And some of it, like if it was a good photo shoot, it was like a New England clam bake shoot. So I would take home like bags of food or whatever, but also like towels and fake flowers and like things for our apartment and our home. So we were like scavengers. We would find a lot of things that were for free also in abandoned buildings. Yeah, it wasn't easy.
Hi, I have two unrelated questions. First one, how did you wash the dishes when you were eating? And the second one, how did the security not notice your car in the mall every day? Like the only car in the lot.
That's so funny. We only used the car to move the cinder blocks. Otherwise, we lived within walking distance of the mall. And those visits with the cinder blocks are really staggered out. So it's not like we did a run Monday through Friday. It was like, okay, in 2 weeks, we'll come back kind of thing. So we were pretty strategic. Oh, washing dishes. I don't remember. It was really gross. I don't remember ever washing the dishes. Again, we had like another bucket, and then we would store jugs of water there. There's a scene where Mike is drinking out of this giant jug of water. We didn't have like water bottles. They were invented later, apparently. We always had these jugs so we could rinse things in a bucket. There is a direct drop from the apartment into the Woonasquatucket River, so we could just like empty the bucket. Yeah. But we were working on a plumbing system. No joke. We want to have like a composting toilet and have a gray water system. Yeah.
Over here.
Yeah. How did you manage to keep it a secret from how difficult was it to not tell anybody? And then the other thing was, do you think that there's a relation between keeping it secret and like the creative process, the fact that it was like a secret place where you kind of brainstormed and created things and projects?
Yeah. So it was really easy to keep a secret because we didn't have like Instagram or smartphones, and you couldn't like take pictures and text them to people. So we didn't have really an opportunity, and also it's like really weird to tell people. I know that my roommate at the time knew that I lived at the mall because I was like, I'm going to be gone for a week. And if you want to visit me, we had all these really weird rules. I was like, at noon, I'm going to be by this payphone on Saturday. So if you need anything, you can call me. And I remember like she brought me this like macaroni and cheese. Like she felt so bad for me. Yeah, so I think it's fun to have secrets and to like have an opportunity to like really marinate on things and cook with your ideas so that you're not too dependent on external validation, right? Maybe like 4 years was a little long. Yeah, and I still haven't told my mom, so.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. My poor mom.
Over there.
Just want to say thank you for coming out. It's been really awesome. Just a question, with your experience as a design researcher and some of the experiences you had researching malls, what do you think there's some things that malls could consider in benefiting a community?
Yeah, awesome question. Some of the best malls that I've been to, a lot in Asia, are just so much more integrated into the city. So they're more urbanized than suburban. So they're connected to public transport. They have parts of hospitals or daycare. A lot of our everyday like civic needs are embedded into the mall. So they're much more multidimensional. They're not exclusively for consumption and entertainment. And I think that's a good general recipe for more sustainable development.
Yes, over there.
I was often nervous watching you moving up that vertical ladder.
Yeah.
Was there ever an incident? Because I never noticed you with carrying straps or pulleys. Did you pull all that off that crudely without an incident?
Yeah, nobody got hurt. It's shocking. I ran into you, right, in the lobby? Yeah. And you're so cute. You're like, this is so stressful. I had to leave. Nobody was hurt. That cabinet that's really big, that China hutch, it's really light. It's really not that heavy. It's just big. It's just awkward. So I don't know. We just thought that was the most efficient way to move things in, but nobody got hurt. Yeah, we were in our 20s, so we're all pretty fit.
I see a hand over here, and we're going to come to the person in front after that. Down here in the front. And a second one here. We got a mic coming right over to you right now.
Hi, this was great. Did you all get along all of the time or most of the time? Because you all seemed to be very united. You had a vision, and I won't say it was utopian, but it was certainly, interesting to see the positive dynamics. Was it always like that, or did you ever get into the regular tussles that human beings get into?
That's a good question. It's a pretty dystopian utopia, right? But no, we were really good friends. I don't know. The only breakup is the breakup of my marriage with Mike. Mike was my professor at RISD. I sometimes like to refer to him as my favorite ex-husband. He's pretty hilarious and eccentric, but not the right fit for me in the long term. He still lives in the Mill building and has 41 cents. That's all I have to say. But we're pretty all of us were kind of weird, nerdy. That is kind of strange though. We didn't get into fights. Maybe we should have more.
Though what's interesting that I learned in our conversation before coming over to share with the audience is that you all pretty much went your separate ways, fights or no fights, and that this film ostensibly kind of brought you back together after a couple of almost 2 decades of 15 not really
years.
in contact.
Yeah, I never saw Jay, Greta, James, Colin, Jay since 2007. But we like each other. It was funny. We had a moment when we did a big Q&A in New York, and we kind of looked at each other. We gave each other hugs, and we're like, "Wait, I thought you were mad at me. No, I thought you were mad at me." And we're like, "Well, why would I be mad at you? I don't know." It was just this weird thing where it was a very intense experience to be so committed to a project together and committed to a specific lifestyle, right? And then at some point, you just have to go off on your own and figure out what it is that you really want and how to take care of yourself and how to build a practice that's not going to burn you out. So, yeah.
I'm going to take this question here.
Oh, that was your question? Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh, here's the mic. Yeah.
I think the thing for me was the social aspect. So it was exactly the two things that you just answered were what I was going to ask. But I also think it's an interesting dynamic because you did have this leader who was the professor.
Yeah.
So I wondered about the power play too, because I noticed at times when he was speaking, the others were just listening.
Gazing adoringly.
Yeah, listen,
yes.
exactly.
Without blinking for so long.
But that to me is the most interesting part of this. I mean, it was brilliant. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
And the film was great. But I thought that social aspect was what I was really focusing on.
Yeah. I think there's a time in your life. I grew up with very strong set of values where I was my parents are immigrants. So I'm actually the only non-white person in this project. My father is Chinese. My mom is Venezuelan. They're both immigrants. I was raised to become a doctor. I almost said lochter. That would be interesting. A doctor or a lawyer. I had to go to this Ivy League school. And then when I was 23, not really 22, but either way, senior year at Brown, I took this class with this totally insane professor who was like, go explore these abandoned buildings. This is part of class. It's totally wild. And I like totally fell in love with the whole lifestyle and way of being. And I think a lot of the other people in that film felt the same way. If you're going to Brown and RISD, it's a very privileged and pristine environment. And at some point you just want to like break out. And this was my way of like rebelling and exploring and maybe pushing a little bit too far and then coming back into like a more comfortable, sustainable middle where it's like, yeah, I can still be a creative practitioner and have a home with food, and heat and a bathroom, right? The bathroom's so important. I have a beautiful bathroom, by the way. I have 2 bathrooms. Yeah.
See a hand over here that we're going to get to. And we're see another one over there. We'll get to you next.
So when it was discovered, what was the reaction of the rest of you? What kind of communication did you have after that?
It was really interesting because Mike and I were technically still married, but I was living in New York and I was in grad school. And I remember somehow somebody found out in my grad program, and I heard somebody like whispering in the elevator, "Oh, Adriana's husband's in jail." And I was like, it's okay. He was like an art jail. It's not the same. Yeah, so at first I was like, wait, should I be like embarrassed? I don't understand. Yeah, so then what was nice is that we ended up being able to talk about the project. I actually gave a lecture at Parsons in the architecture school about the mall, the positionality of the apartment, the idea of liminal space, the idea of like consumerism shaping identity, and then I got a job. So I taught at Parsons for 12 years because of that project. Yeah.
I skipped school a lot and went to the movies, and here I am. Yes, we've got a question over there.
I thought the scenes in the children's hospital with the tape art and the engagement of the kids with the art, not to mention that the images themselves were astoundingly creative, was just amazing. Did that idea ever take off? Are children's hospitals in other parts of the country doing this kind of thing? Because it seemed fabulous.
Yeah, it's a really good fit. Like that kind of temporary work, giving children the opportunity to have agency over their environment is so powerful and amazing. And oddly, it has not taken off. So I know that Mike has had to like struggle and actually still try to do work in the hospital. Ironically, there's a lot of tape in hospitals, but it's the red kind of tape. So I hope that this film, if one of its impacts will popularize that idea for sure. And he's done like so much work also in other mental health settings. I think he's even done tape art in prisons as well. So I think it belongs everywhere for sure.
We're going to take 2 more questions. I see a hand over there.
I'm curious about the tape art. It's supposed to be temporary as opposed to paint, but they went, the walls became covered and with multi-layers of tape to form, leaves on trees and such. So did it end up staying on the walls, or did someone actually take all of it down and then do more?
Yeah, so there's very strict rules of tape art. Okay, there's just like strict rules of secret mall apartment. You're going to see a pattern, okay? Tape art usually can never stay up for more than 24 hours. And any tape art done by tape artists is always life-size silhouette. No words, no letters. But yeah, it can be layered. Like I remember Mike did a mural over the course of a week one time that was 1,700 squirrels. And he had 7 days to do it. And on the 8th day, we peeled it all off.
And does it peel off that easily?
Yeah, because it's like painter's tape.
Yeah.
It's masking tape. So it doesn't, yeah, it's easy to take it off.
It was fabulous. Fabulous.
Mhm.
We have time for one final question. I see a hand with the mic next to you and toward the back there in the middle. Yep.
Hello, thank you. I was wondering, given your various professions for you and the others involved, and especially your understanding and research into malls, given the publicity of this movie, do you think there's anything that you guys might do with the Providence Mall or potentially an art installation referencing your experience?
How meta would that be? Wait a minute.
There is
Has
actually.
this movie played at the Providence
Yes,
Place
it
Mall?
opened at the Providence Place Mall. So that's when I was talking to my mom on the phone. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to Rhode Island. So it's still showing there. Like they can't stop showing it.
Is there a plaque forthcoming to commemorate that this here was where
it's not going to be a
residents lived?
plaque. It's going to be a bucket.
Fair.
Yeah. But the movie theater is actually on top of where our apartment was. So you can very easily take one of the emergency exits from the movie theater and get down to the apartment. So I think it's in the end credits, right? The mall is not doing so well and they need to reinvent themselves and have a better business model. So maybe they'll have apartments.
So on that subject,
Yeah.
and as the expert who
Yes.
has lived in malls
Yeah.
and is now conceptually thinking about malls, and you've experienced malls, you weren't here for my intro, but I contextualized this screening
yeah.
with our own mall and it's sort of where it's at in its life cycle. What do you see for the future of these places, whether it's our Stamford Mall here, Providence Place, other malls, when you think about it from that first place when you were thinking about how this mall was impacting the community in which you lived? Looking into the future, what as the expert do you see as the solution for the mall problem where consumerism is not keeping up with the rate of construction and the infrastructure that's in place, or people's habits moving to online and whatever else have you?
Yeah. So basically, it's a little bit of a tricky answer, but I'm an expert in urban development, but I'm an expert in community-centered urban development.
fair.
So I would never pretend to know. I have some ideas about what to do with the Providence Place Mall, but what needs to happen for like failed developments, basically, is there needs to be like a proper community-centered planning process where you're bringing together all diverse stakeholders, community organizations, neighbors, small businesses, all the different stakeholders together and creating a roadmap and then creating a development plan that reflects those different need states. Yeah.
I love the notion of collaboration. And on that note, let's give Adriana
Thank you so much.
a big round of applause. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.